Heavenly Father, today we put on the full armor to protect us against attack. We put on the belt of truth to protect against lies and deception. We put on the breastplate of righteousness to protect our hearts from the temptations. We put the gospel of peace on our feet to walk in your light, peace, and freedom with the Holy Spirit. We rebuke anxious thoughts. We take up your shield of faith for protection to block and destroy all the darts and threats thrown at us by the enemy. We put on the helmet of salvation to cover our minds and thoughts, reminding us that we are children of a mighty King. We are forgiven, set free, saved by the blood of Jesus. We take up the sword of the Spirit, your living word, that has the power to demolish strongholds and is sharper than any double-edged sword. We come to you, Lord, in prayer daily. In Jesus' mighty name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
What's up, you guys? Welcome to The Imagination. I'm your host, Emma, and today I'm absolutely honored to have back on the show once again MK Ultra, satanic ritual abuse, and organized abuse survivor, overcomer, and thriver, loving mother, published writer and author, content creator and podcaster, physician and radiologist turned activist, founder of the Angel Coalition and co-founder of Women and Children First and the Babushka Brigade. Starfort enthusiast, award winner of the University of Washington School of Medicine's prestigious Humanitarian Award, podcast regular, and one of my dearest friends, Dr. Juliette Engel. If you're new here, if you've missed Juliette's past episodes, or if you need a short refresher, here's a brief synopsis of her testimony and a little bit about what we'll be talking about today to catch you guys up. Born in 1949 into a U.S. intelligence family, Juliette was sold at age 6 into the CIA's MK-Ultra program, a sinister operation of trauma-based mind control authorized in 1953, as Juliette has testified. Within MONARCH, as Juliette describes as MK-Ultra for children, she endured unimaginable horrors as a small child, such as being administered LSD, hypnosis, ritualistic and organized abuse, sex magic, trafficking across borders, and this only scratches the surface. Her childhood was stolen to no avail, and her mind fragmented by trauma-induced dissociation. Yet at age 16, Juliette escaped, piecing together a new life with no memory of her past. Amnesia became her shield as she pursued a medical degree, specializing in radiology and building a thriving ultrasound practice in Bellevue, Washington. Counseling in the 1990s helped unlock her suppressed memories, and despite threats from her parents, she faced her truth head-on. In 1992, she sold her practice and founded the Miramed Institute in post-Soviet Russia. By 1999, in Moscow, she launched the Angel Coalition, an underground railroad rescuing thousands of trafficking victims. Her work exposed the global child sex trade, earning her the University of Washington School of Medicine's Humanitarian Award. Her 2021 memoir, Sparky: Surviving Sex Magic, is a gripping MKUltra expose using her own testimony to shine a light on the darkness she survived as a child. Through podcasts and her advocacy, Juliette connects her past to modern trafficking networks, warning of MKUltra's lingering influence. On past episodes on this show, Juliette has shared pieces of her testimony from childhood to young adulthood to the here and now, and has also done joint episodes with other beloved guests like Kevin Annett and Kathy O'Brien for topic-specific episodes. If you've missed any of those episodes in the past, I'll have them linked down below in the description. Today, she's back to talk about some current events helping and shaping the survivor community, along with the discussion on how survivors can take their power back and move beyond the devastation of victimhood. Today's episode is a do not miss. A mother, podcaster, and faith-driven warrior, Juliette transforms her pain into purpose, inspiring a movement against exploitation. Her journey from the depths of darkness to a radiant beacon of hope ignites a fire in us all, proving that one unyielding soul can shatter chains, heal hearts, and inspire a world to rise against injustice with unstoppable courage. Before wrapping up the introduction of today's guest, I wanted to share just a couple quick reminders and updates. If you're interested in being a guest on the show, if you wanted to share any information privately with me, or if you were interested in submitting a written testimony to be featured in a Substack article, you can reach out to me via email at imagineabetterworld2020@gmail.com or standbysurvivors@protonmail.com. I've also recently started up a new YouTube channel, and you can subscribe to me there at the handle at Imagination Podcast Official that I am now streaming new episode premieres from weekly. Turn on your notifications and join our loving community in the live chats every Sunday, Tuesday, and Thursday evenings at 6 p.m. Central Time. Thank you all on the other side of the screen wholeheartedly for helping to make the imagination the safest space on the internet for survivor, whistleblower, advocate, and educator disclosures. Your support means the absolute world to me and to every single guest on the show. So, you guys, without further ado, please help me in welcoming back today's guest of honor, survivor and whistleblower, warrioress, voice for the voiceless, selfless humanitarian, hero, public speaker, anti-child trafficking and survivor advocate, woman of God, and absolute walking miracle, the one, the only Dr. Juliette Engel. Juliette, it is so wonderful to have you back. We love it every time you come on. Thank you so much for being here with us today.
Thank you, Emma. You do my ego such a boost with your introductions. Thank you. Um, well, I'm glad we're talking this week, and of course, thank you for all the amazing work that you do and the incredible library that you've built up of survivor testimonies. And as I go through that from your videos and your presentations and your Substacks over the years, I'm learning, constantly learning. And this last week, it's sort of like it's almost tacky to say it was a turning point, but it's more of a tipping point with the horrible killing of Charlie Kirk, and almost simultaneously the murder of that lovely young Ukrainian woman on a train in North Carolina. Like, I don't believe for a minute that those two events are not connected. They are connected. They're like taking the beautiful young blonde Ukrainian refugee Christian brave and Charlie Kirk on the other end of the country practically, and brutally killing them both was meant to be the ultimate intimidation of our nation, of all of us. It's not going to work, and so relative to what I've been doing since we've been involved with speaking is I've been getting more and more involved with trafficking and abuse. And this is satanic ritual abuse survivors and MK Ultra survivors who, if you do the math, there have to be at least 300,000 of these people who've been subjected to the CIA, MK Ultra, MONARCH, GATE, Child of God, all these different cults and mind control programs sponsored by the CIA, but this includes we say CIA, but I mean it's a wide variety of agencies, each with their own flavor, and more and more people now. I'm 76. I went into the program in 1955. The MK Ultra program was started in 1953. My uncle was one of the founders of the NSA, which was about that time. So the heads of all these agencies and the top levels of all these agencies put their own children in the program. I don't know what they were thinking. Probably that we would be the future leaders, and whoever the ultimate they is, would be able to control the government that way. Unfortunately, it's worked. It's worked that way. So we have a government which is controlled now by the Senior Executive Service, which is thousands of people who belong to the Senior Executive Service. You can look it up. They brag that they control 75 agencies of the federal government, and that they control those agencies by inserting their own agents in positions of power in those positions. Um, and where do those people come from? Are they qualified? Are they chosen by the agency? Are they elected? No, these are the unelected deep state officials who were placed by someone in the senior executive service. And once they're in a government agency, they receive salaries which are higher than any other employee. They cannot be fired for any reason. Their retirement rewards are huge. They are generally not qualified for the positions that they're in. They create chaos, and that's what they're there to do, apparently. But that you take 1953 when they planned to create a sort of an army of mind-controlled uh, children of genius, because of course they were all the geniuses, so they took their children and they put us in there so that we would be not only the geniuses in charge, but we would be under the control of the supreme beings. Um, and then 70 years later, that's what we've got. So we have a deep state, which is unaccountable to the electorate, not working in the benefit of the people, completely amoral because they're as far as I can tell from being in the program, their main objective was in removing each of our souls. I think that adrenochrome is the same process. They can take a child's soul, or they believe they can extract it when the child is in ultimate terror, and they can take the blood out and use it. So all of this relates to taking the purest, the brightest, the bravest, the youngest, and extracting their souls, and then creating like a zombie universe in which the people proceed, and they receive the money, the bling, the acknowledgement, the contracts. They become the CEO of Cracker Barrel and do a great job, you know. So their job is really destruction. So I think enough people, in order to stop this, we have to stop this, because in addition to being completely incompetent and being destructive and being an unaccountable, unelected class running not only the U.S. but Europe and many countries in the world, they're killing our children. So children, the destruction of children, the genocide of children, the murder of babies, the use of children to produce adrenochrome to provide eternal youth for movie stars. All of this is completely consistent with the MK Ultra program as I knew it, and the ultimate result of this is going to be the end of the human race. And I found some notes recently that I had made when I was like 12, 13 years old. I kept secret journals and I would write in the back of books and this kind of thing so that my parents wouldn't find it. And I wrote that the first rule of the MONARCH program was genocide, and that starting with the Black population, that there would be no Black people in the United States after 1982. And I actually wrote that in a report and turned it in seventh grade. And my parents got called in and said, "What are you telling this child at home?" And I'd never even met a Black person at that time. So I know this would have been in the 1950s that this was their ideas. And I think maybe because I was one of the first people in the program and it was fairly small, and so the heads of each annex, they would move us from place to place to place, and each of the places, which I call an annex, and the CAA called safe houses, had a Dr. Green, a Dr. White, a Dr. Brown, and nanny blacks that took care of the kids. And every Dr. Green had a thick German accent. So these were the MK Ultra imports from Germany who were brought in who had specialized in their research on mind control and control of children who were and these brilliant people like my uncle uh, turned myself and my cousin over to these monsters and thought it was a good idea. So anyway, so we've come to the point where it's gotten absolutely critical, and the killing of these two people is so symbolic of where we are, and the reactions in the country is so symbolic of where we are. How we've divided into people who have a moral compass and a soul, who may not have agreed politically with either of these people, but have a soul and feel grief for their pain, and people that have absolutely no soul, no moral compass, who would celebrate barbarism. And that's a terrible sign of where we are in this country. So, as an MK Ultra survivor, and as someone who is now working with other survivors, we've been talking about amongst ourselves about what this entails and what we can do. And the fact of the matter, as I see it, is that okay, we've basically been through a training program. So you could call MK Ultra, Project Monarch, a boot camp for all the things that's wrong with society, but also for providing us the tools to fight what's wrong with society, because we understand it, we can see it, and if you've lived through the MK Ultra process, and you're coming out the other side, or you're in one of the groups that's healing itself, or you're fighting for your life in your community and trying to like understand what's going on and under constant barrage, I mean, you're incredibly powerful. The strength that it takes to do that, and the ability to stand up to the pressure that people are under, trying to get you to commit suicide, trying to get you on drugs, trying to get you to abandon your children, trying to get all of these things to go on. And the people that are standing up and resisting that, now there's an army. And amongst the group, they still have a very victim mentality, because they've always been treated as damaged goods. And I can tell you that was the constant message. That's still the message to me from my family, is that it's all your fault. You're no good. Like, you caused nothing but problems. I mean, but I'm like, yada, 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 if you've stood up to all of that, you're one tough person. And that's what we need right now. And so I looked at the group last night. I mean, this group of beautiful, intelligent people in this group, and I thought about the power that was right there, and they're tipping. So this is their tipping point. They're like debating, because of course I'm pushing. Okay, we got to get out there. We got to fight this as an opportunity, because people are going to wake up and start to understand what's been done to our country, because that's the only way we can reverse it and get back to what we are supposed to be as good moral human beings. And they're tipping, they're wavering. I think maybe we should retreat. And I said, you retreat, we lose. The only way we lose this country is if we all fold up and retreat. There's nowhere to retreat to now. There is no safe place. And so I watched them decide, okay, there is no safe place. So let's go. It was the proudest moment. I hope they're going to watch this video and tell them, you are fantastic people to have withstood the torture, the evil, the pain, the bullying, the stalking, the threats, the isolation, the persecution by your own families, which is typically what what they all suffered. Um, you stood up to all that. Well, you can stand up to the rest of it, and nothing's going to be worse than that. So anyway, so that's my message to the MK Ultra survivors and the survivors of satanic abuse. And I also think that at an institutional level, some really positive things are happening. Um, do you want me to stop? I'm like giving a monologue.
No, you're doing great. Thank you for these words too. It's so uplifting. I think a lot of people, especially because of this past week's events, these things really do traumatize and beat people down and sort of push them back 10 steps from where they felt like they were going. And it does make people feel like they want to retreat. It's very emotional. They really weaponize our compassion in the midst of throwing these really
Yes.
traumatic events in our right in front of our eyes, showing us murders on live TV that get replayed and shared. And we're seeing it so many times, in one day when nobody should ever even have to see that once in their life, and it's really nice to hear these words of encouragement in a time like this because you're absolutely right. The only reason why the whatever you want to call them, the cabal class, the parasite class, the elites, the deletes, whatever you want to call them, they're struggling to keep us in line, and to keep us from taking action. They see us rising up, they hear more voices being heard. They're having trouble canceling and deleting and terminating every single person. And so this is a showcase of how powerful you and others are and who are speaking out, because if you weren't, they wouldn't feel so threatened to have to continue traumatizing the public and doing these heinous things to their own citizens and other citizens, of different classes and races, and weaponizing all of that to divide us, So it's really encouraging, just like you said, the targeting, these different things that happen to survivors to make them feel small are actually only happening because they're so powerful. Why would all these people gang up on one person if they weren't powerful? They wouldn't care. The only reason why they do that is because they're terrified and they want you to shrink back up, to be quiet. They want you to crawl back in your hole, hide under your blankets, not get up every day, and they're praying for that because they know that even one voice can take everything down. And when they see you guys coming together, when they see you guys collaborating and talking and healing together, sharing resources, it's their absolute worst nightmare. So it's a wonderful time to remind people of that, because I think like how you were just saying, these events can really push people back and make them rethink what they're doing and make them question that power that they have, when in fact these things only happen because we have so much power. So that's my long story of thanking you. I think that's a wonderful reminder and a really wonderful time. Like you said, it's the time for everybody to rise up.
Yeah, why would they? Every time you turn on the television set, you see Charlie being killed, and you
Oh,
see that beautiful Ukrainian girl cowering in front of the knife attack. Why are they putting that up over and over and over where children will see it? And it is done to traumatize us over and over and over. And the fact that the film was so good at both of those murders tells
oh,
you right there that it was set up from the beginning. So this should just make everybody furious. And in your fury, you don't pull the blanket over your head and hide away. You raise your voice. I mean, there are good things happening. And one of the things is the movement in for the new state of California. So if you're in California, a lot of people in California don't even know this is happening, which is just amazing to me. But there's enough counties have voted in California to create a new state. So they're in the process of dividing the Western liberal, hyper rich, horrible people, the cities you don't even want to go to anymore, like San Francisco and Oakland, Berkeley, um, large sections of Los Angeles, splitting that into that'll remain California and Gavin Newsom and that terrible mayor of Los Angeles can continue their rituals and their parties. But the rest of the people want to get serious and they're creating a new state of California. And they have written a Bill of Rights for the new state of California. And the 18th Bill of Rights states that there will be no human trafficking, no slavery, no uh, child trafficking. None of this will ever be tolerated in the state of New California, and that the funding will be put into place to adequately enforce the laws and to rescue, repatriate, and rehabilitate trafficking victims, and special attention. And they quote that they say that California is the worst place in the world for child trafficking, second only to China. And I think it's actually under Ukraine. So I think it's China, Ukraine, and California. It's pretty bleak. So so this is happening, and on October 25th, there's going to be a conference or a meeting, a convention in San Diego um, to do the final organizations. And I'm encouraging the trafficking survivors who live in the area, the new state of California. Emma will put the website for New California under the show notes. You should look at that because the fact is, as California goes, the rest of the states are going to go. So when California not only breaks free but writes a actual functional Bill of Rights for the people of New California, then the rest of the country is just going to pretty much rubber stamp it because that's how it works. And you've already got multiple states, including Eastern Washington. Washington State would rather split apart. Oregon would like to split apart. So it just takes one. When one goes, the rest will follow. And it's extremely important for people like the survivors to get in on the process of advising and writing and editing and contributing to the Bill of Rights for each of the states. And we can even get to the point, like Kevin Annett has suggested and will continue to help with, creating citizens' grand juries and tribunals for each state. Because if this is something that's completely within our legal right to do, and we have every right to create citizen grand juries that then make recommendations to prosecutors to prosecute trafficking rings and human traffickers in our own communities. We can do that. We are so isolated, so repressed. Every attempt to do something, which even gathers data about human trafficking, is repressed, cut off. And I know Emma's internet is constantly cut off and interfered with. And every attempt I've ever made to get a group together to create an interactive map to start showing human trafficking gets pulled. And I don't even, it's an obvious interference. And the fact that there is no actual collected data on how much child trafficking there is in California, but everybody knows it's absolutely terrible. What about the rest of the country? We don't know. The states are not allowed to accumulate data. When Texas tried to, it was sued by the federal government and the data was forced to be destroyed. We don't even have that. So that's a situation we're in. Are we going to tolerate this? No, we can't tolerate this. We're at the end of the line, people.
Oh my gosh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's why there is no data. They refer you back to NCMEC, the Center for Missing
Yeah.
and Exploited
Oh my
Children,
gosh.
but they're like, no, you can't trust
No, they're
that data. In fact, they'll tell you that. That's an open secret that they don't keep any data, or the data that they keep is not useful for any purpose. So, yeah, and I watched that happening during the 2000s when from 2010 to 2020, the shift away from any kind of funding for actual NGOs to all these law enforcement organizations and military organizations that register as nonprofits. And that was all made possible by the Millennium Development Goal number 8, which was written by Jeffrey Sachs, but that's another discussion. So it's it will take less less energy to fight against this when we have an organized plan and everybody has their little piece and knows what they're doing. And I don't mean to imply that any piece is a little piece. They're all important pieces, but it's different. You're not taking on the whole thing. You will take on a role on a citizen's grand jury in a county where you live, and when that becomes something that every single person does, then this all changes. And I've seen it happen. I was in Russia during the fall of the Soviet Union when everything went into chaos. Human trafficking was absolutely rampant. Um, Mobs were shooting people in the street all night. It was a absolutely crazy time. I think we're heading in that direction. I think we will get to that direction, but hopefully we're smart enough to start pulling out now and getting our ducks in a row so that we can fight this, save our children, save our species. Basically, we're talking about saving the human species and maintaining the human soul. Human soul is an extremely powerful thing, and that's what they fear above all else. And I was looking at that group of trafficking survivors in the meeting last night, and I thought, what beautiful souls, you know. It's such an honor to be in the presence of such powerful souls, you know. And yeah, they were wounded, and yes, they're healing. And but what strength to have stood up to what they've stood up to and still maintain their power and their beauty. And the people in New California are fighting the good fight. So go take a look at the website. It's comprehensive. It follows the entire process. It tells every state how they can start successfully breaking away and freeing themselves from the rich population, high tech, moralless, soulless population centers that are ruining everyone's life. Do you want to be ruled by Burning Man? No, I don't. That's who is now running California. That rich elite who makes so much money doing essentially no services, but are in the inner loop, who have enough money to pay $50,000 to go to Burning Man and have orgies in the desert. They can just stay there, as far as I'm concerned. But so that's my sermon for today. You know, the beauty in survival is the beauty that wins, and that's what they fear the most. And they're fearful right now.
What do you think are the odds of this new California bill passing to where they actually do split? And then on top of that, for people who might be interested, have you seen challenges or what can people expect, sort of like the hurdles? Have you seen challenges and tribulations that they've had to overcome or maybe are right now?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. They've had this has been going on. Actually, when I was a child in California, they were trying to divide
No
California.
way. Wow.
Yes, yes, because the divide it was like two different countries. Always, it was always like that. Very big conservative component, which consistently dominated when in the 50s, 60s, 70s, and then in the 80s and 90s with the growth of the tech world and Silicon Valley, it shifted in the other direction. So the original split was north and south, and now it's like east and west. You can look at the maps on the New California website, but they've got like 1,900 counties have already passed it. So they've passed the threshold. They're within their legal rights to create the new state. Um, what the opposition is doing is no one hears about this. Even in California, people don't know about New California,
I
even
didn't know
in
till you
New
told me. I
California.
had no idea.
Yeah,
We should
yeah,
be hearing about this in the
it's
news, and like everywhere's quiet about it. You don't hear it anywhere.
which is a sign that it's succeeding. You
Yes,
know, that means that it's going forward. And out of the 1900 counties, they were voting on the various parts of the human rights of the Bill of Rights, and like 98% of them voted in favor of the Bill of Rights, Sector 18, which is the anti-human trafficking um, Bill of Rights, which would end human trafficking and child trafficking in the state of New California.
incredible.
And yes, it is incredible. It has that much support for and that tip would change the entire country because you have so many others ready to go. And we don't hear about, I mean, in Canada, there's 4 provinces that are ready to leave and actually become the 51st state of the United States. Have you heard about that?
I think briefly, like I've heard it somewhere, but I didn't hear any follow-up or that it was being taken seriously. I think I just heard
Yeah.
speculation that there was groups that wanted to do that. Wow.
Well, take a look. They've actually voted in each of those provinces, including the Yukon territories, to do it. So,
That's amazing.
the whole map of North America is about to change, and the fact that it's yeah, yeah, take a look. I don't know where you would look for it. I usually get my news from all kinds of sources. I haven't watched mainstream media since the 1980s, but
There you go.
it's everything is available. Everybody's publishing everything. So yeah, take a look. And also the fact that Washington State and Oregon want to split and join Idaho. You didn't know that?
No. Where's all
Yes,
this news at? Why do I only hear about people dying? Where's the good
because
stuff?
that's
Positive
because
stuff.
all of the reformation into actual workable sectors is bad news for the deep state
Yes.
because then we'd settle the water rights, the farming rights, we'd get our environment under control, we'd stop poisoning everybody with bad food. I mean, all of these issues that are just killing farming and ranching and destroying the lands, we would end that. And the tyranny of BLM in the Southwest, all of that will come to an end when the deep state no longer controls the states. So they can't have that. We can't have happy, healthy families and clean environments and healthy children and people that aren't mind controlled and having their souls sucked out of them in adrenochrome factories. You know, we can't have that. And if people understand that's their options, they'll opt for clean, healthy, um, survivable conditions and the care of our children. I mean, nothing's more important than the children. Nothing.
And so in these new written declarations, these bills where they are advocating more rights for children, more persecution for trafficking perpetrators, and obviously justice for victims, what is different in that can maybe secure the chances to be much higher than what it is now that victims are getting justice and perpetrators are um, actually being held accountable? Because I think, it seems like it's already written in the laws that that should happen and it doesn't. So what gives you faith with what you've read and studied there that this will actually increase the chances of good happening for survivors and victims and then persecution happening for perpetrators?
Well, the fact that they're writing it into a Bill of Rights. So this becomes the right of every California citizen, and specifically the right not to be trafficked, kidnapped, mind controlled, um, uh, put into a program, your children stolen. I mean, just the simple lines in that section 18, which everybody can look at. It's on that website. Um, uh, Provides a guaranteed right to justice in those categories, and that does not exist under the current Bill of Rights because none of this was happening at that time. So this is in addition to the federal Bill of Rights, but it then determines how all court cases go, and you know that CPS is very corrupt, and the courts are corrupted and basically in league with the CPS system, and and all of that will come apart. And but it's very important. This is the point where trafficking survivors who have suffered so much in their lives. This is not the time to like lie down and put a pillow over your head or jump off a bridge. This is time to pick up a stick and by a stick, I mean a pen, and go to the conference in San Diego and join a committee and get busy on inputting the for the Bill of Rights. How because as Emma says, how do you guarantee that this is implemented? Well, this is implemented by the very words that you write in the explanation of the Bill of Rights. This is a powerful time, and you have the opportunity now because your words will have meaning and will form what comes after. This is the seed, the new seed, and the new seed has to be nurtured and grow, and you can't let the demons into the new seed. I mean, you have to stand there and stand in defense of the new Bill of Rights and the rights of children and the rights of trafficking survivors and the rights of victims and the rights of children who have suffered satanic abuse and the punishment of those who perpetrated it. And they're not unknown. They're not particularly well hidden. They are just protected by this cone of control. And the best way to break it is to split the state and to call for justice in amongst cities and counties and communities that aren't corrupted. So go for it, California.
Have you seen anything written about satanic ritual abuse or governmental mind control at all in these new legislations?
No, they keep it it's
Human
forming now. So they've agreed the fact that Section 18 will specifically address that. So what comes now is the building of how it's implemented and what the definitions are and all of that. So it's a wide open forum, and there will be attacks against it, and there will be attempts to remove it, and there'll be attempts to corrupt it, and then this is where the survivors who really understand the meaning of these terms, what they mean, what the state and the county should stand for. I mean, they understand it because they've experienced the brutality of it, and they need to be there and they need to defend that section 18. And so the location, all of that is on the website. I think their meeting is October 25th. It's in San Diego. If you care about the future of California, you should go there and put your input onto the Bill of Rights. And that's one issue, of course, but that's where the victim survivor voices have the greatest impact, I would say. So go there and stand up for yourselves.
And what was the website?
The
I'll link
website
it, but do you
is
know it offhand?
it's New California Online.
Cool. Okay. New California Online for people listening. I'm very deeply encouraged by that percentage you said, 98% of people. I mean, first of all, who's the 2% of people, sort of voting against wanting
Yeah, that was my
actions in place?
question.
But at the same time, I think a lot of people are under the impression that there's still so much opposition that people aren't believing that there's a high majority of people still against what we're doing. And even though there are people against it, 98% of people in that area that have a say on this are voting pro, that they want to see more legislation, that they are believing survivors, that they know that this is a reality in their state and they're educating themselves on it and want action to be taken. I mean, that's really amazing that we live in a time where we can see a percentage like that, and I would hope always that there would be a high percentage of people that would vote for this. But I think just again, going back to what we were talking about with all the bad news that we're always bombarded with and all of the discouragement and the threats and the different bullying that we see, especially online, people losing their minds with, how they react to their trauma and to these events that happen. There's so much bad that we see. And I think it can sort of seem like there's not people that are advocating for this and there's not any hope, and that it's not going anywhere. People are just, the same old mind control society that we've been for decades. And I think that's really amazing that the percentage wasn't, a 50-50, or it wasn't battling to be 60-40, something around there. It's like almost
Well, here's
100% of people.
yes, here's the numbers. Out of 1,420 counties in New California, they asked the question, would you support New California State's Constitution, which will utilize all constitutional, legislative, judicial, and executive means necessary to stop violations of the New California's Bill of Rights, Section 18, slavery, and put an end to child sex trafficking and slavery in its many forms that currently exist in California state. And out of 1,420 counties that voted, 1,415 voted yes, and 5 voted no.
I wonder do you know what five? I'm really fascinated. I want to look into who
How
those
can you?
counties are.
Yeah, don't move there.
Don't move there.
I don't know what the breakdown is. I'm surprised that any voted no.
I know, me too.
Maybe it's about the wording or something. I don't know. But anyway, it's an overwhelming majority.
It's
So
amazing.
actually, that's more like 98% or something. So
It's incredible.
anyway, you will post. Well, go to the website and you'll see that the meeting is being held in San Diego on October 25th, and this is our chance to get all of this sorted out and keep anybody from changing this or interfering with Sector 18.
That is wonderful. I really appreciate you sharing this part of the content that we're going to talk about today. Because, like I said, I wouldn't have known this either if it wasn't for you. It's really encouraging seeing people, take matters into their own hands, even seeing work like yours and Kevin Annett's sort of being duplicated, all these decades later. People are starting to realize, hey, there were some people in the past that had some really good ideas and they worked. And it was
Yeah.
because communities came together and did things themselves without waiting for authorities' approval or, without giving somebody else their power to make that decision. People just came together and did really great things. And I really love too, it showcases, the power of being consistent and like you said, not giving up. Imagine if you would have given up the first time that you were told no for something, your work and all the, tens of thousands of survivors that have been helped in and that are continuing to be helped in Moscow from your work, all the work that Kevin has done that is now being heard far and wide because people are starting to give him a voice, where he was so suppressed before. And then you see
Yeah.
regular people listening to people like you guys and saying, wait, I can do that too. It really goes to show the power of even if you get told no a million times, even if you're censored a million times, even if you mess up a million times on how you say something and you don't feel comfortable, to just keep going because it's the message and how and what you're trying to get across that counts. Not being perfect with it, not showing up and, having to have some super crazy expensive set that you're speaking on, you can do really simple things with just your phone and the internet, and having Wi-Fi and being able to connect with people. And, it's amazing to see people finally realizing that and getting groups together in their communities and saying, okay, I'm going to try to make a change now and I'm do it with my community members. And we're going to do it without having, these corrupt politicians hold our hands through it. We're going to plow through them and demand it with the public majority and get them behind us. So we can sort of trample over what they've done and, do things our way, which is the right way.
And it's also with the technology and the tools available and informing kind of groups that there's no reason that I think trafficking victims and like particularly survivors with young children, who are being stalked and threatened, they should stay anonymous. There's no reason to come out and physically identify yourselves. Do it in a group. And people like me, I mean, I'm 76. I'm willing to speak out and be a voice. But I think you are quite right to join a group and stay in the cocoon of the group. There's no reason you're just as powerful that way. So anyway, so I'm concerned about you know also as a survivor, as soon as you start activating, you're going to run into that suicide program. So you need to be aware of that as well as another risk to all survivors, and stay in the group. The group has handled it. Other people in the group have gone through it. Stay in the safety of your group because your colleagues and your compatriots can support you through the whatever comes up, because it does come up and it can be defeated. It's just a stupid program, some evil person stuck in your head, and maybe they thought it was amusing or something. I don't know, but it's time to shake it all out.
And if you guys missed it, Kathy O'Brien and Juliette did a phenomenal episode on the topic of self-harm, of suicide, of these different programs that can activate and sort of slow progress down if it's not addressed properly or if the person going through it doesn't know what's happening to them. So if you guys go back in my library, and I can even link it below, I would definitely encourage
Yes,
you guys to
that
watch
was very
that.
good. Yeah.
It's a really important topic, as more people wake up, as we start spreading the word, it is really exciting. But at the same time, we want to temper self-harm rates, suicide rates, addiction rates, people going into psych wards. We want to keep those numbers low and not let those numbers, rise at the rate that people are awakening. So public
Yes,
safety and
yes,
survivor safety is the key to all of this.
absolutely. And not letting them trigger you, or if they do trigger you, giving you a way to get untriggered in a group. So yeah, all of that extremely important. And what Emma does is so important.
And you.
Um, well, you too. I mean, you're always praising me. I want to praise you too, because the fact that you've taken on this load of really emotionally traumatic, difficult topics as a normal person is, we don't know what to call. We've got our in the group, everybody has dissociative identity. We call it disorder, but we're going to turn it around because it's actually a tool. If I mean, basically, the MK Ultra program taught us tools that we can now use to fight against them. But what do we call people that have normal brains? Normies doesn't seem right. Some people say singletons. That doesn't seem right. Um, what do we call you?
What am I?
Yeah, what are you? What are you? Smart,
Sherry
smart and
Berger, who
brave.
you've met recently, she calls it dissociative identity response. And I really like that because it
Oh,
is. It's
that's
a
good. That's
response to
good.
trauma. It's not a disorder to something that happens. It's our body's natural response to it.
That's good. I'm going to use that from now on. That's much better because it's not a disorder. It's a
Oh,
defense mechanism, a
exactly.
very successful one.
Yes. Yes. And also, while we're on the topic of sort of these scandals, and before we start tying up, the Epstein thing too blew up since you've been on to talk about that. And I don't think you talked about your encounter with Epstein on here, but for people who don't know, you did have one back, maybe you can talk just a little bit about it, but I wanted to hear
Sure.
your thoughts on the whole scandal, which has obviously now just been buried. Everybody forgot about it this week, after it blew up last week, but wanted to get your thoughts on that because I haven't really asked you that on the show.
Well, the fact that uh, all these Epstein survivors are being encouraged to come out and publicly share things and even talk about their families and children shouldn't happen. This should not be done. It puts them at risk, makes them vulnerable, and if nothing else, subjects them to the risk of triggering. And they need to be better protected. They need to be in groups where they can like stay anonymous. So that's my advice to them: is protect yourselves. Please protect yourselves. My encounter with Epstein in 1988, um, I was invited to a remote island in the northwest Pacific in the San Juan Islands, out north of Seattle, like way out in the middle of nowhere, but to a beautiful house that was all glass overlooking the Puget Sound. It was just one of the most beautiful places I'd ever been. And I was invited in the middle of a very difficult time in my life, going through a divorce. And I was invited by a friend who's a famous author, Ruth Beebe Hill, who wrote the book Han to Yo, and is herself, she's dead now, but she was a fascinating story. Anyway, so I decided to take a weekend out of my court struggles, and I went to Friday Harbor with Ruth Beebe Hill to a book party because I was getting ready to publish a book, and so she wanted me to meet her friends. So I thought we were going to a big party, and so we went to this gorgeous house, and there was nobody there. So it was just me and Ruth and the owner of the house, and then seaplanes started flying in, and quite a few came with guys in leather jackets and very dashing. This was the era of the Sandinistas and the drugs for guns, running with Oliver North. And there were a lot of them in Seattle. So a lot of them flew the planes that ran the drugs and were in and out of Mena, Arkansas. And so two of the guys that came in were Jeff Epstein and his brother. And so there I am with Ruth Beebe Hill and all these all these Iran Contra guys. And I was very uncomfortable. I felt like this is not a book party. And I didn't drink anything. I didn't eat anything. And I suspect that was my MK Ultra coding kicking in, saying, "Whoa," And they started talking to me, and Epstein asked if I liked the house, and I said, "Yeah, it's an absolutely gorgeous house, amazing house." And he then went on to ask me questions about coming to work for him and would I like the house, and he was asking questions about. At the time, I was a physician practicing in Seattle, and my specialty was ultrasound, and I had a medical technical company which was developing digital ultrasound. We were going from analog to digital at that point in 1980, and so he was asking me if I could transmit all kinds of data and disguise it as medical reports, even hiding it in ultrasound readouts. And I said, yeah, certainly I could do that. And so he went on about how he and his group were going to buy an island in the Caribbean. And he said it was going to be a resort for heads of state. And they were going to come there with their health problems. And he said he had an island picked out. And then he wanted medical staff there. And he wanted us to be able to transmit any kind of data that we picked up or heard disguised as medical transmissions. So he said, "Could you do that?" And I said, "Yeah, I could do that." And he goes, "Well, I can give you the house." And he named an amount for cash, he said. And he named an amount of money that I had in my bank account. And so sort of left it hanging, and then I didn't follow up. And there were a lot of conditions he started hitting me with that I was not going to have anything to do with. He never mentioned child trafficking or that this was anything other than a resort for heads of state. But that's pretty much what it was, wasn't it? I mean, it was they brought in every heads of state they could find and then had them do horrible acts and then blackmail them. Now, the thing is that was one island, but there were many. So constantly focusing on Epstein sort of ignores the fact that there were probably a dozen other situations like this going on. And there are trafficking victims from all of those sites as well. So just taking care of Epstein is not going to address the entire problem at all. And I'm very grateful that I didn't eat anything or drink
Oh
anything.
gosh, or sign any
I could have
contracts
woken
when you
up
were
on
there.
some good awful place. Yeah, that was a sheer setup, and I never fell for anything like that again. Well, yeah, actually I did, but um,
How did he introduce himself? Did he say that he worked somewhere or had some title? Who did he say he was besides
none
Jeffrey?
of them
None of them.
none of them introduced themselves. I didn't know anybody's name, and it was when I saw pictures of him and his brother later that I realized who they were. And but no, nobody introduced anyone. And I've been to some other events like that where nobody introduces themselves, and that's that's uh, that's a surefire sign that you better not eat or drink anything.
Oh yeah, yes. Do you
But I
feel
was
like
so
seeing him constantly, in the news, all these different, scandals year after year that keep coming up that bring his name back into the equation, his suicide, all these different things, including the wonderful survivors who got up and spoke about their experiences. Do you feel that focusing on him and Ghislaine Maxwell, for example, and sort of taking them out, however it was, if they did actually die, if they committed suicide, if, not Ghislaine, because I know she's still alive, but Epstein, Ghislaine now being locked up. Do you feel that this is a way to keep the public satisfied with saying, oh, there's these horrible people, but one's dead and one's in jail, so we're good. We can go back to what we were doing and everything's taken care of?
yes, exactly. And Ghislaine has them over a barrel because she knows who the rest of them are. She knows how many islands there are and how many ranches in New Mexico there are and how many gorgeous houses on San Juan Island. Um, it occurred to me while I was in that place, that beautiful house, I was completely isolated. I mean, I was stuck on the northern end of a remote island. I don't even know how they built that house, but I couldn't get out of there. And I don't know how I got off here, but yeah, it's the tip of the problem, but it's the key in. So we have to keep pushing on the Epstein issue. Can't let Ghislaine Maxwell just deal her way out of that mess because she does know everybody, and there are other Ghislaine Maxwells too. So um, I think when New California goes and the citizens grand juries form and the survivors get together and start organizing the tribunals, a la Kevin Annette's model, to start prosecuting the people that have committed the crimes in California, all this will come out. Um, all of this will become obvious, and then it can be pulled down. And everybody looks at the CIA like it is a monster. It's an out of control, organized crime, government sanctioned monster. But it's only 2 years older than me. I mean, I was born in 1949. CIA was founded in 1947. Before that, we had OSS, but that was kind of a casual uh, old boys club, not at all the unlimited printing press black budget monster it turned into. But so it's not that old. We haven't had it for more than 78 years. So we don't need it. It's not some big strong knight that's going to come along and stab it and kill it. It's 1,000 little grand juries in little towns all over California that are going to start pulling it apart from beneath. And it'll be gone before they even turn around and figure out what to do about it.
And
So
it's
that is my
stories
message
like
to
yours.
all you survivors out there, you beautiful, strong, intelligent people. Create, stay safe, create your environments, and give them hell. I mean, enough.
Exactly. And as Juliet said, there's no need to risk your safety. We live in a time where you can do so much anonymously, which is amazing. My little podcast is a testament of that. How many people have come on and
Yes.
testified anonymously. So it is a great time right now to be alive, to where we can share so much information in so many different ways, so many different outlets, so much different types and levels of visibility if we want more or less. And there's tons of small groups that are doing things behind the scenes, that are doing things together where they know who each other are, but it's completely anonymous to the public. So there's a lot of different ways to keep safe, and a lot of people doing really good things in little pockets of the country and world. And it's great to have somebody like Juliette on to remind us of that, because I think we get so bombarded with all the negativity and trauma, and just it's so heavy, and to know that there's these people in these different states and counties and towns and things that we haven't even heard of, these little good things that are happening, these little lights in the darkness, these candles lighting up that are lighting up an area. And then somewhere down the road, there's another candle lit. And pretty soon, there's not going to be any room for any darkness the more that we do that.
Mm-mm.
So it's really encouraging. And I'm going to have that website that Juliette mentioned below. You guys can go check out what they're doing, follow along, like she said, at the very least. But at the most, take a look at that. And if you don't live in California, think about maybe if you check in your own state to see if this is happening and how you can get involved. And if it's not, now you have a model to follow where maybe you could be the pioneer in
Exactly.
your state, get a group together and start your own coalition, of creating a different Bill of Rights and a different legislation in an area, and breaking your state apart, if that's what it comes down to. So Juliet had mentioned that she was writing a book at the time she went to this party, but she has books out now for us, and I want you to talk a little bit about those and share where people can get those as well before we wrap up.
Well, go to my website, which is www.julietteengel.com. Like, oh, there you go. And my 3 books are there. Sparky Surviving Sex Magic is the story of my childhood and growing up inside the MK Ultra program. And I tried to keep it very true to what it was like as a magical thinking child, growing up in this madness and trying to make sense out of things. And actually, I chose Sparky because that was when I was 10 years old. Every year we would move, be in a different place, and I'd assume another identity and have a different name for myself. And when I was 10 years old, I was Sparky McGregor, and I was a little Scottish warrior. And it's actually very similar to what we as trafficking survivors are looking at now, because I decided at that time I was confronted with so much overpowering defeat that I basically just wanted to lay down and die. So I tried it for like 10 minutes and decided, no, this isn't for me. And I became Sparky, the child warrior. And honestly, I've been Sparky ever since. So that was my year of overcoming, my year of puberty, my year of living on the border of Mexico and the Tijuana sewer. It was a wild time. So it's that's my book of childhood. And then Angels Over Moscow for 20 years, I worked and lived in Russia and mostly in Moscow. And I organized the Angel Coalition, which was an underground railroad that rescued trafficking victims from all over the former Soviet Union and then Europe, North Africa, Asia. And over the course of 10 years, we rescued close to 70,000 people through a series of systems we developed. And then my third book, Moscow Traffic, is a novel, but it's actually truth. But my agent said, no, you got to call this a novel because nobody's going to believe this is true. However, now that the Russia-Ukrainian war is going on and all these things are coming out about human trafficking in the former Soviet Union, I could have written it as truth. Anyway, those are my three books, and I hope you'll have a read. Um, and that's it for me.
And so I'm going to have Juliette's books, her website, um, as well as the website for California that she was talking about, and any other resources, including her playlist, including the episode with Kathy O'Brien I talked about down below in the show notes. So please connect with her, go support her work. Her books are absolutely fantastic, and she's done little teasers of them here on the podcast if you want to go back and listen to her first couple episodes. But I really encourage you guys to please go support Juliette. And Juliette, just thank you with all my heart for coming on, for all the work that you do, for all the advocating you do. You know, you praise me, but I didn't go through what you did, and I feel it's our moral obligation and duty to listen. And you went through all of this, have your own trauma, your own baggage and heaviness to carry, yet you're always inviting people to pour their heaviness onto you, and you carry it so gently and with grace, you know, and you make it look so easy. So just thank you with all my heart for all that you do for so many. You're such a beacon of light and hope, and we're so lucky that we get to have you here, that you are here, and that we get to learn from you and, you know, help build a better world from your testimony and your advocacy.
Thank you, Emma. It's an honor to be here.
You're so welcome. And so for everybody listening, again, go check the show notes, connect with me as well. And you guys will have a wonderful episode coming up as well with Juliette and Lynn, who is a past guest as well. So look forward to that. That'll be a wonderful episode. But you guys, we couldn't do this without you. Thank you so much for listening. God bless you all, and we will see you next time.